these are our words, but number one, financial freedom. So how do I build a financial system that gives me all the money I need and enough that I don't have to worry about it?
What's the difference between a scarcity mindset and an abundance mindset, and how does that show up in
Oh, so I
business?
literally just got off a call recently. So we have a new client, successful entrepreneur in Colorado. He sold his business, and we're trying to cure him of it, but
Yeah,
he definitely has the scarcity mindset, right?
yeah,
And he's
yeah.
just, and I think it's just as much comfort zone as anything else. So he started a company from scratch. He was one of the things that drives a lot of tax reduction is the structuring of your business. Are
hmm
you an S corp? Are you a C corp? Are you a partnership? Can you be QSBS? I mean, there are a lot of things, and entrepreneurs by nature, I don't know, tend to shoot first and aim later, right? They're action oriented and they're not afraid to move, but
What if true wealth had nothing to do with money? In this episode of the ThriveWell Journey, we sit down with Peter Culver, entrepreneur, author, and co-founder of Freedom Family Office. Together, we explore how entrepreneurs can break free from scarcity, rethink success, and design a life that's not just profitable, but purposeful. From building predictable income to leaving a lasting legacy, Peter reveals why the richest life is always built beyond money. Hey there. Look, my hope is that the ThriveWell Journey meets you exactly where you are and helps you rise into who you're here to be. It's 2025, and this is your year to thrive despite what the world is throwing at us. And our desire is that our conversations inspire you, bring clarity, and give you a reason to breathe deeper. So, our ask is that you take a moment to subscribe, download the episode, and follow us on your favorite RSS platform. Your support doesn't just help the show grow, it helps build a space that's rooted in your evolution. And that means everything to me and the TTJ team. Now, if you're ready to go beyond the episodes, come join our private ThriveWell Journey discussion group on Facebook. We're walking through a 22-week series built to anchor each week in intention, purpose, and meaningful connection. I do so look forward to hearing your voice and can't wait to see you in the group. But for right now, let's get into it.
yeah.
We are talking about being rich beyond money, and Peter is here. We had some crazy technical difficulties, but I'm so glad that we stuck it out. We found our path, and we are here. So, how you doing today, Peter?
Doing great. Appreciate your patience. Someone needs to teach me how to live rich with technology, but we have a little
Right,
hiccup there.
right.
And I'm happy to be on and chat with you.
It's a must. The technology world is a must to know-how and knowledge of it all. But you, I read up on you, and you've come through a lot. Who was Peter today?
So I would say a couple of things, which probably our audiences shares. I'm just a happy, forward-looking person trying to, in our company, help entrepreneurs be both financially successful. But the point of a phrase that we use, which you alluded to, which is rich beyond money, is being wealthy, having some kind of financial underpinning is great, but what for, right?
Yeah.
I don't think anybody wants their epitaph to be, he was a rich man or he was a rich woman, right? And so
And what else,
what we
right?
try and do is help people first get some clarity about what we call their ideal life looks like, and then use our skills, both technical and some are people management skills, to help them design and implement a plan to get from where they are today to what we call their ideal life.
Right.
So
Uh-huh.
I'm fortunate that I have a vocation, whatever you want to call it. I just love what I'm doing. So most of the day, I talk to successful entrepreneurs and try to show them a way to be even more successful.
That's a lovely career.
It is. I love it.
Well, in order to do that, you must have, you know, gone through a lot to get that figured out. What are some of the things that you do talk about with entrepreneurs to be more successful entrepreneurs?
So maybe this will be a little bit of a visual picture, maybe to give you a feel for it. So our technical skills in our company are in financial planning, taxes. I'm going to come back to that in a minute. Investments, estate planning, insurance, and exit planning. So those are technical skills. And
Hmm.
usually the reason our phone rings initially is someone has an issue in one of those areas. In our company, the three most common reasons people call is like 75% of the time they're paying too much in taxes and they want to figure out how to pay less in taxes. That's kind of our real core strength. Some people have gotten from wherever they started to a certain level of success and wealth, and they're kind of like hitting the ceiling a little bit, right? So, how do
Hmm.
I push on to the next level? And then a lot of them, if they're in an operating business that right now is generating all the income they need, they're thinking about, well, what if I sell my business someday? Or what if I just don't want to work anymore? Where's
Hmm.
the income going to come from? So,
Right.
how to generate passive income. Now, the psychiatrist or psychologist would say those are the presenting problems. That's why people call us on the phone.
Uh-huh.
What's interesting is when we get into a deeper conversation with them below the surface, and sometimes we use the image of an iceberg, and there's less of the iceberg above the surface than below the surface. So those issues that I just mentioned, they're the tip of the iceberg.
Hmm.
And when we get into kind of really having a longer conversation with them, they're interested in, these are our words, but number one, financial freedom. So how do I build a financial system that gives me all the money I need and enough that I don't have to worry about it? Another thing we run into a lot is successful business owners are by definition good at running a business and managing all the finances of their business. A lot of them, probably because they spend so much time in their business, don't feel successful in the management of their personal finance. They don't have a will. They know they should, but they
Yeah.
don't. They don't
Yeah.
have an estate, all of that. And then uh, the last thing is if you have all the money that you need and you have that, great feeling of personal success, I think at some point entrepreneurs start to feel like, I don't need to work and I don't want to work 50, 60, 70 hours just for me. I want to do something that in some level gives back. We call that higher purpose.
Hmm.
And I think a lot of people that don't really know entrepreneurs think all they care about is money. And the real reason people become entrepreneurs is in part to become better off financially. But it's really because the freedom of being an entrepreneur is attractive to that freedom of time, freedom of purpose, whatever it is. So
Right.
uh, that's kind of the mindset that we approach. The work that we do, every entrepreneur is different, but similar process in trying to help each one.
Yeah, the mindset of an entrepreneur is much different than someone who wants to work. But sometimes entrepreneurs struggle with redefining their wealth or redefining wealth and success. Why do so many entrepreneurs do that? And yeah, Why do so many entrepreneurs do that?
I get, it's like everybody, you get into a comfort zone, you get into a pattern, you're, it takes a little while to step out of that and into a new life. And maybe some people can navigate that all by themselves, but sometimes it's, nice to have a coach or a guide to help you through that. The company that we have three companies actually in total. I have a partner. We're both, he was a CPA for about a decade. I was a lawyer for about a decade. But since then, we've been entrepreneurs. So we often say about our company that it's a company built for entrepreneurs by entrepreneurs. So
Yes.
we know all the peaks and valleys of what it's like to be an entrepreneur, where I think we're far enough down the road now that we can help some that are, trying to reimagine themselves or reinvent themselves. And sometimes you just, you need an outside input to help you design the plan, stick to the plan, those kinds of things.
Yeah. So you were talking about, you talk to entrepreneurs to be more successful. What's the difference between a scarcity mindset and an abundance mindset, and how does that show up in
Oh, so I
business?
literally just got off a call recently. So we have a new client, a successful entrepreneur in Colorado. He sold his business, and we're trying to cure him of it, but he definitely has the scarcity mindset, right?
Yeah.
And he's
Yeah.
just, and I think it's just as much comfort zone as anything else. So he started a company from scratch. He was the CEO, and then he sold it, and he went to sort of, being master of the universe, his little universe, and as best he could controlling everything. And when you sell the business, step into the new world, it's completely different.
hmm hmm
When you go to the gym, nobody knows that you were the CEO. Maybe a few people do, but nobody cares, right?
Right.
That you
Right.
were the
Right.
CEO of your company. I think, being an entrepreneur is very hands-on, although you can't control lots of things that happen in the outside world. You can control what happens in your company. Now he's got a pile of money that he needs to invest, and it's just a whole new bike to ride. So, and
hmm
I would say right now he's constantly worrying about, does he have enough money to do all the things he wants to do? It's sort of driving his wife crazy, because I would say she was born more with an abundance mindset,
hmm
right?
hmm
So uh, that's a little bit, I think, that different personality. I mean, that's a little bit more, wired into your internal makeup. That takes a little time. We're definitely making progress with this guy. Really kind of, it's blocking and tackling, but how much money do you need to live on? How much money do we have to work with? So we're making progress, but he'd been starting and running his company for 15 years. He's been in this new arena where he's not really managing a company anymore. He's got to figure out how to manage his finances for maybe a year and a half. So not surprising. I think that it takes a little while.
Would you say like the fact that there's some freedom there for him maybe scares him because he's not doing the normal thing that he was doing day in and day out?
Yeah, I don't know. There's a little bit of fear there. I just think he's uncomfortable, right? Do you know
hmm
what I mean? He had
Yeah.
a routine, and it's not helping in a way, but this will help him throughout his life. Is he feels like he's just sort of getting his sea legs, and then the market goes down 15%.
No.
So
Yeah.
that's a little
That,
tricky for him to navigate. But
right.
I think you mentioned you have some background in the financial services. There are a lot of tools we can use to set a plan, give them confidence of a plan. I think we're making progress,
Yeah.
and but I think it's his innate disposition in a way to be sort of a worrywart, which is probably why he built a successful business.
Right. Yeah.
And
He
he's
thrived from
very,
that.
his wife, they're taking some big trip to Europe for a month or so this summer. And it's like, to him, I literally have to do projections and run scenarios to make him feel like he can afford to do it. His wife will say, well, she'll turn to me and say, can you just tell me that we can afford this? And I wouldn't tell her a lie, but it's true.
hmm
That's all she needs to know. She's happy with that.
Yeah.
So the other thing I think is they're used to that very hands-on kind of life that all entrepreneurs have. And so in the long run, I think he'll be happier if he'll let go a little bit and just not worry, let other people help you with stuff, get experts, things like that. His wife is just more inherently accepting, I think. So
There's some freedom there for her.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
You have a lot of experience, and I know that, you have your personal moments. Can you share a personal moment when you realized money alone wasn't enough for you? Here on the ThriveWell Journey, we talk a lot about not just surviving, but thriving. And a big part of that for me has been understanding my health on a deeper level. That's why I partnered with Live Good and brought it under my company, Orion's Health. Not just because I believe in the products, but because I've seen what they can do firsthand. I've walked through some hard health chapters in my life, including cancer and a kidney transplant. And I know what it feels like when your body's working against you. That's why we're offering 2 free tools that help me and can help you too. First, go to myfreehealthreport.com/Orion's Health. Take our quick health questionnaire and get a personalized report created by Dr. Ryan Goodkin, Live Good's Director of Product Development. It's clear, actionable, and totally free. Second, visit myfreedetox.com and get a free chlorophyll and zeolite detox bottle with your first product order. It's a gentle, natural way to clear out toxins and start fresh, something I personally use and stand behind. This isn't just a sponsorship, it's part of my mission through Orion's Health to help people thrive in body, mind, and spirit. Of course, always, always, always consult your physician before starting any new supplement or health regimen. Your body is unique, and your healthcare provider should always be part of the conversation. The links are in the show notes. Now tap in and take your next step toward thriving. That you have more purpose.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if there was a moment. It's certainly been an evolution over time. Part of the story, which may connect with it. So I mentioned I was a lawyer for 10 years. And I represented as a lawyer, mostly business people. But as a lawyer. And I had a client that started an investment company. And I did the legal work. So I organized the entity and did the contracts and helped them raise money and all that. And when we got to kind of the end game, they hadn't really, in the beginning, identified a specific person to run the company after this new business was started. And I don't know where they came up with this idea, but someone said to me, well, you created it. Why don't you run it? And it was interesting. I had a great job as a lawyer, and this was an entrepreneurial startup venture, but something told me, and the law firm said, if it doesn't work out, you can come back. So to make a long story short, I literally walked across the street from an office at my law firm to the new office of this company. And I wasn't there more than a week. And I knew I would never go back. And I think part of what registered with me was, I don't know how much you know about the law business, but it's all sort of, you record your time in 6-minute increments and it's billable hours, and they track how much money you're earning for the firm and how much, you're going to keep of that. The other thing is, a lot of the work you do as a lawyer, I would have described my life as a lawyer as 20% client time, 80% doing what lawyers do, researching, writing, all that kind of stuff. The work I do now and have done for 30 years is more 80% people time, 20% other stuff. And so I think that appeals to me much more. And I think I've been fortunate enough to, along the way, be good enough at it that I've accumulated some money. But I've never been not a worrier about money. I don't have overarching, material needs or anything. I remember my dad said once, when I started to have my own kids, his view was, don't give your kids money, give them good experiences.
Oh yeah, I like that.
So I think that's a good philosophy. So yeah.
I like that. I like that. So you went from, you went from being a lawyer, and then was the first business that you started with was Freedom Family Office?
No, this was quite a while ago. And I kind of had a succession of, so that company we started, we ran for about 7 years. We ended up selling it to a bank that wanted to bring into the bank a financial services company. So I don't know, I stuck around there for a year or so. And, now I was back in a bureaucracy, not in an entrepreneurial business. So I left, started another investment company. That one we sold. And along the way, I met the person who is now my partner, Noah. Initially, he was actually a client of mine. We provided investment services. He had clients who needed those services. We partnered. And
Nice.
what happened we got to know each other about 20 years ago. And initially, we had two separate businesses. We shared some clients. And what happened over time was we ended up really doing the same thing in coordination for mostly the same clients.
Mm-hmm.
And it finally dawned on us that we don't need to have two businesses to do the same thing for the same clients. So we put those together about 10 years ago. That's the origin of Freedom Family Office. It's a good sort of division of responsibility. Noah primarily does he does speeches. He does a lot of writing. He's a member of a bunch of sort of entrepreneurial networking groups like YPO and EO and things like that. So in a way, up until very recently, he's like the Mr. Outside of our company.
Okay.
And I was the Mr. Inside. Now, what's happened over time is when we started Freedom, we had 3 people, Noah, myself, and an assistant. Well, fast forward 10 years, we have 25 people. And what's happened along the way is we've nurtured someone, another one of our colleagues, who now really runs the company on a day-to-day basis. So that's freeing up my time to do the 2 things that I like doing, which is doing client work, and some of the podcasting, giving presentations, all that kind of stuff. I've been in the business for 40 years. I know a few tips and tricks. And so it's just fun to share those with people and get their reaction.
Well, let's get another tip. Like, what are some overlooked mistakes new entrepreneurs make when it comes to building wealth?
So I like to say all the time, there are 2 great ways to build wealth in America. Number 1 is start a business, run it successfully, grow it to some significance, and either it just becomes a cash cow and you hang on to it. Maybe you pass it on to your kids or to your management, or you sell it.
Mm-hmm.
But the other, in our opinion, and there's some real math to this, the other great way to get wealthy in America is to pay less in taxes. And people in the investment world always talk about compounding, right? And the rule of 7 and all this jazz, if you just hang in there and keep compounding your money. Well, think about the impact of if what you're compounding doesn't get a haircut or gets a much lower haircut than it would if you pay taxes. And so we do a lot of work. That's our core skill. We help clients reduce income taxes, capital gain taxes, and in some cases, if they're wealthy enough, the estate tax. So, and I think, obviously, when you have a business up and running, hopefully you're making some money. So you want to save on income taxes. You might sell an asset. You might sell the whole business at some time. So you want to do capital gains taxes. I think a lot of one of the things that drives a lot of tax reduction is the structuring of your business. Are you an S Corp? Are you a C Corp? Are you a partnership? Can you be QSBS? I mean, there are a lot of things. And, entrepreneurs by nature, I don't know, tend to shoot first and aim later, right? They're action oriented and they're not afraid to move. But so that's an area that if we can start early enough, we can help them with that structuring. And then obviously along the way, we partner with them to reduce their taxes. And we draw a distinction in our world. We would say what we are is a tax strategist. So we don't do tax returns. We don't do them. We don't want to do them. And I would say doing tax returns and being a CPA, which is very important, is more of a compliance function, right? The client gives the CPA the numbers, the CPA puts the numbers in boxes, in the right boxes, they file the return on time, they tell you the right amount to pay, all super, super important. But they pretty much take the numbers that the client gives them. Most CPAs don't call their clients recommending creative ideas to reduce their taxes. It's just not what they do.
That world is not that.
So that's what we do, is we're kind of, the CPA kind of operates inside the sandbox, right? And what we're trying to do is outside the sandboxes, think about ways that the numbers that the client might give to the CPA are just smaller numbers because they've done things to reduce their taxes. So, again, the math of not paying taxes is unbelievably powerful. I think many, not just entrepreneurs, many people who make a lot of money, they just overlook how powerful that could be. And because of that different mindset of a CPA, a compliance person versus a strategist, they're not going to get those ideas from their CPA typically.
I'm going to ask you this question. So I'm going to ask you this question. It's not necessarily an entrepreneur, but I was having this conversation with my sister's husband, my brother-in-law.
Yeah.
And he's like, man, we pay so much in taxes because of this and because of that. Do you work with people who are high earners that can help them, restructure their
100%.
Their money?
Yeah, I would say, our target market is people who are high income earners. The number at which we can help people varies a little bit, primarily by state, right? So if you live in California, that's the worst tax state in America. So everything else being equal, for the same amount of income, if you lived in California, say versus Florida or Texas or some of the other low tax states, California, you're going to pay like 15% more tax. So for the same level of income, there's more we could do to help you. So that's on the income tax side.
Mm-hmm.
The other side that we're very active in is help. So that's just your W-2 wages, your distributions, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
The other area that we're very active in is the capital gains tax. So that's when someone sells a business, sells a valuable piece of real estate, that kind of thing. More of a one-time transaction than the income tax, which is this year, next year, and the year after that. Mm-hmm. And so that's an area we're active in helping people, from their perspective. They started a business, they grew it for 15 years, it's worth whatever it is now. If they lived in California, they might have to give back like 40% of that. So they're interested in reducing that. So that's where we come in. So both of those categories, both people on a regular basis who earn a good income, or regardless of their income, people who are having that, lifetime liquidity event or whatever it is. So either of those two areas we're very active in.
Now this goes back to mindset. why do so many entrepreneurs or people, period, delay in building a financial plan?
Wow, yeah. I mean, I think a couple of things. One of the things that I think gets in the way of entrepreneurs is they're by definition do-it-yourselfers, right? Self-starters, do-it-yourselfers, and stuff like
Lone
that.
wolves.
And a lot of this yourself. I mean, there's a fair amount of financial planning that if you know the concepts and the tools, this is not nuclear physics or anything like that. But it's not what most entrepreneurs do all day long. They do that in their business, right? Of course. What are my assets? What are my liabilities? What's my income? What's my expensive? It's the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think the do-it-yourself mindset prevents them from getting help that they could use. For whatever reason, they just haven't gotten connected with the world of advisors, which are super helpful.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, my experience is once they're exposed to it, and if they're doing it with someone who's good, it kind of, it becomes the framework for everything.
Yeah.
We have a tool that we use a lot in our world called e-money, which in part is a financial projection tool. So I want to buy a second house. Can I afford to do that? We can run that through e-money. I want to take this big vacation to Europe. Is that affordable? Am I going to run out of money?
Yeah. Those are good.
So, and probably the biggest reason they don't do it is they're just so darn busy running their businesses that if they have any, if you've been at the office for 10 hours, most entrepreneurs don't want to go home and work on their own financial plan.
Right.
They want to break and spend some time with their family. But I think if they're exposed to it at a professional level, they see the value of it and lock on to it.
So what I'm hearing, you take some of the pressure off because, like you said, entrepreneurs, they're busy. Like they're focusing on
100%.
Taking their business to the next level or fixing issues or problems or whatever, and just being the captain of their ship. So basically you take the pressure off of them a little bit.
And I would say I sometimes describe the way we work with clients as what I call the CEO model. So a really good business owner is what we call a visionary, right? So he doesn't do everything or she doesn't do everything. They have the big ideas. They have the strategic vision. They have kind of the moxie to get it done, but they don't want to do everything themselves. And so, they identify a problem. They get together the group of people who can solve the problem. And hey, guys and gals, we need to figure out, I want to buy another business, right? And then the people that project is delegated to, they go away and they study and they come back to the CEO person with a recommendation or a series of options. And so that kind of preserves the time of that person to not have to do the workup, to have other people do the workup and reserve his or her time for making smart decisions. So that's a common model in running a business.
Yeah.
We just take the same model and say to the CEO of the family, let's follow the same model. What's your vision? What are the strategic objectives you want to, all that kind of stuff. Then we use our tools. We go away and we come back and present options that, either, could be a husband and wife, whoever, whether it's a single person or some kind of partnership. So we try and make the work that we do efficient for the business owner, right? He doesn't want to learn to become a financial planner. She doesn't want to learn to become an investor. They don't want to learn all that stuff. They want to use the tools to get to the goals they've personally set for
Right.
themselves.
Right.
Yeah,
That's where you come in.
that's our goal.
That's your goal. So, what are some of the core building blocks of a healthy financial foundation for business owners?
Yeah, so I would, I think in a way, one, you need to get a handle on either what you have or what you need in the areas of financial planning so that, that's every business owner has a financial plan for his business. They should have a financial plan for their family.
Hmm.
Uh, and then that can involve investments. As we've discussed before, it certainly should involve taxes.
Hmm.
Uh, we help clients with kind of the combination of estate planning. What's going to happen to my stuff if something should happen to me? That's both a practical question. There's a big tax issue in there.
Yeah.
Uh, Having insurance to cover a whole, what happens if I die and I'm the CEO of my business? What's the impact of that on my
Right.
family? How can I deal with that? And then as we've talked about, a lot of our work is helping business owners sell a business, what we call exit planning.
Uh-huh.
And, it's not something you want to start the day before you sell your business. There's a
And
process
there's
and
the
stuff.
process, right?
So, uh, and then what you want to do is, I think the value we add is a lot of people, if I say, you know, who who's your financial planner? And they'll Susan Smith or whatever. And who manages your investments? Michael Burt. And who does your insurance? Culver, whatever it is. But if we say, do you ever get all those people in a room to work together to make sure that all the stuff that they're doing is well coordinated? The answer is usually no.
No. Yeah.
And so what I think we try and do is kind of be, the hub and the spokes kind of thing, and make
Okay.
sure that all those pieces are working together. Not that anybody would have the intention of them working in conflict, but if there's not good communication, someone could be going in one direction and something else could be leading in a different direction. So that's part of the role we play, is to get all of those pieces to be what we call integrate.
Yeah.
And then
Sounds
that's
good.
good for the client. Back to my CEO model, the client in our world, most of our clients, I have an investment question. Well, I'm going to call Peter because he's monitoring all that. He may not be doing it all, but he may be supervising.
Okay.
So the client doesn't have to call 6 people to, I think they find that helpful.
Yeah. Yeah. I can see that being helpful. And just from your personal experience, we always like to talk about, you see the success and all that kind of good stuff, but what was one failure that taught you about building lasting freedom? And then we talked about entrepreneurs because of freedom. Um, can you
Yeah,
share?
I would say, like a lot of entrepreneurs, I'm in a lot of ways, and I was much more so this way, hands-on, do it yourself, I'll do everything, don't get help, all that kind of stuff. And so
Yep.
learning to be comfortable delegating things to other experts, and that's what we tell all of our clients, so we've got to learn how to do that ourselves. But
Hmm.
I think it's a natural evolution, and I think you learn that whatever your skills are, and nobody has all the skills, you
Right.
can leverage your own
Exactly.
skills
Exactly.
for your benefit and for them if you have a team rather than you're just a team of one, right?
Hmm.
I think that's a lesson that not everybody was born knowing, but you learn
You
over
learn
time, right?
through
Sometimes just by
experiences.
being too busy, right? Oh my
Yeah.
God, I got a successful company, but I'm sleeping 4 hours a day. That's not a good thing.
No, it's not. It's not sustainable, first of all. And I've learned over and over again the hard way again and again and again that something like that does not work. I was just actually talking to Yvonne, the producer, like, in this world of social media, it's a tendency to just keep going, keep going, keep
Right.
going, and keep going. But
Oh,
there
it's endless,
is
right? You could open your phone up at 1:30 in the morning and TikTok's still going strong, right? Or
right,
whatever it is.
right, and we're like, hey, I said, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna do, 3 months. It's even in the 3 months, it's going to be a little break, but 3 months we're working on. We got to work on with this podcast and all that kind of stuff, and 1 month off. And I think that's probably an idea for entrepreneurs. Just
There's
you
a
can't.
famous coaching program that you've probably heard of, and maybe many in the audience have heard of, called the Strategic Coach,
No, I
started
haven't.
by a famous guy in Toronto,
Hmm.
and it's a coaching program for entrepreneurs. And some people stay in it for decades. The basic program is initially 3 years and then usually another 3 years. So you apply, you pay, and you go to the initial meeting, the kickoff meeting. And when you get my sessions, although the guy lives in Toronto, my sessions were in Chicago. So they rent a conference room someplace. And on the table in front of everybody's chair is a little like pamphlet thing that's about the size of a checkbook. And it
Hmm.
unfolds. And the front side of it is January to June, every day, little lines. You turn it over. The flip side is July to December. And you're kind of wondering, okay, what the hell is this thing? And the guy comes in and he says, the very first thing we're going to do in this strategic coach course is you are going to put into the calendar when you're going to take your vacations.
Mm.
So that's good advice at a whole bunch of different levels,
Well,
but
yeah,
you
it's
know,
a
you
must.
you you need to. I think there are affirmative things you can do to create more freedom, but some of the things are just blocking time and not just, I'm not going to work 7 days a week. That, to me, we don't regard that as success. We're pretty strong in our company about people. Every once in a while, you got to work a little extra hard, but
Yeah, yeah,
it,
guaranteed.
it's not a sign of success that everybody's overworked and overstressed and all that kind of. And maybe
It-
that's that rich beyond money thing, right? Which is you want to be able to enjoy some of the fruits of your labor. And one
right.
of them ought to be time to do stuff that's not work stuff that's pleasurable.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
You talked about your thing here is rich beyond money.
yep.
Um, and as we're winding down here,
Yeah.
what's what's some simple systems or habits um, that new entrepreneurs can adopt today to set themselves to set up for long-term wealth?
Yeah. So I would, and this, I don't know if this is the steps themselves, but I think the, I talked about the ideal life. Whenever we have a new client, which is sort of a version of the strategic coach thing, is we don't start with the numbers. We give them 3 or 4 exercises where we really say to them, imagine, Michael, it's 5 years from now, 10 years from now, whatever it is. They can kind of pick the time frame. But we want you to vision what your ideal life looks like.
Hmm.
And we've done, I don't know, thousands maybe of those little exercises with entrepreneurs. And what's really interesting is when you ask them those questions, they never talk about money.
Mm.
They talk about where they want to be, who they want to be with, sometimes who they don't want to be with anymore,
I
all
don't
of
want this person
that.
in my picture.
And so that's our version of what we call begin with the end in mind. So
Mm.
have a clear vision, a confident vision about what you'd like your future to look like. Then go back and start to reverse engineer that, right?
Mm.
So, and I think they'll find that for, it may take a certain level of income. It's going to take a plan. Maybe some of the money you need to invest, we can help them do that. But I think you always want to have that the most entrepreneurs, successful entrepreneurs, are really good in general at making goals and striving for goals, right? They're kind of
Mm-hmm.
they're future oriented
Mm-hmm.
people usually. So we're just trying to get that sort of innate mindset adapted to their personal financial and non-financial success. So it's
Yeah.
not, they have to learn to maybe, slightly operate in a new world, but the kind of fundamental structure is very similar to, I think, the world they're already working in.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah,
I agree. As you're as we're winding down, rather, and your last words on the podcast
sure.
this time around,
Yeah.
because we'll have you back on again. Um, what's on your heart or your mind that you would like to share to someone about living rich beyond money and just offering something
Yeah.
from your experience?
So I was in a big discussion over the weekend about the future, and is the future bleak or is the future not bleak? And there's a bunch of stuff going on in America that makes a lot of people, not feel so great right
Right.
now. But I think it was Barack Obama said in a speech, I don't think he coined this phrase, but he said, the moral arc of the universe is not a straight line, but it always moves upward.
Mm,
So I think that's something that most entrepreneurs believe. Somehow the future is already always going to be brighter, and what you want to do is make sure that that future isn't just bright, say, just for your company,
hmm.
but that you devote some of your mindset to how do I create the future I want for me, my family, my charities, whatever it is. And I think if you take a little time with some guidance to get clear on where you're arcing toward, you're going to be more successful financially, I think, but you're going to be much more satisfied. So
Yeah, I think that's the key.
yeah,
I think that's the key. Um, Peter, I want to say thank you so much for being
pleasure.
here.
It's fun.
I wish we had more time, but I know
Yeah.
we got a hard stop. But um, how do people get in touch with you?
Oh, sure. So I'm kind of old fashioned. Literally, they could call or text me if they want to
Okay.
at my phone number, which is 917-697-4156, or just email me, Peter at Freedom Family Office. We do have a website. There are things that you can go on there, but one of our company policies is sort of, you know, I don't know, open intake valve and high responsiveness. So some of the most fun things we do is hear for the first time from a successful entrepreneur what their story is and what they're trying to do. That's my
Yeah,
favorite thing to do. And then
yeah,
hopefully we can help. But just reach out. Yeah.
nice. And we'll have all your information in the description
Yeah.
below.
And we're
Eh,
on we're on LinkedIn and
yeah,
all the usual places. So yeah.
yeah, nice. Yeah,
Okay.
actually, I think I followed and connected with you today.
Good.
And so all you listeners or watchers, thank you for tuning in. And our question of the week is, what does being rich beyond money mean to you? And what's one step you're taking to create a life of purpose and freedom? Peter, thank you so much for being here, and we'll see you next week. Before you go, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for being a part of the ThriveWell Journey. Every time you show up here, you're choosing growth, clarity, and the deeper work of becoming who you're meant to be in this world. And if you're ready to reconnect with what truly lights you up, I created something powerful that can help you. It's called the Empowered Path, 7 days to reclaim your purpose and passion. It's a beautifully designed, guided workbook that walks you through a week of powerful prompts, clarity building tools, and real mindset shifts. Now, you can get instant access to it today. It's a small investment for a huge return. Your energy, your clarity, your alignment. And if you want to take it deeper, check this out. I'm offering a limited number of free 30-minute purpose coaching sessions. No pressure, no pitch, just space for you to reconnect with your direction, your gifts, and what's next. So you can grab the guide and book your session at the link in the show notes. Let's not just go through the motions, let's really walk this path on purpose. I appreciate you. And like we always say, let's make thriving our new normal. and I'll talk to you soon.